Now, trouble appears to be brewing within the ruling Kenya Kwanza coalition, with the former Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria painting a grim picture of the alliance's future.
The most dangerous moment for a government is not when the opposition attacks it. It is when one of its own senior insiders starts exposing government's nakedness to the public. That is exactly what happened after former Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria posted one of the most symbolic and disturbing political messages on his X account. A controversial statement which has sparked sharp debates in Kenya's political landscape. He wrote, "The movie is the Titanic. The ship has hit the iceberg. Water levels are near full inside the ship. It's clear to all it's headed to the bottom of the sea. The passengers are prepared for the worst. Even the rats are scampering for safety and looking for an exit." But two groups remained oblivious. The band continued playing the music like nothing was happening. And wives of the nobles and the rich were still quarreling loudly about who would sit on the front row. On the surface, Kuria never mentioned President William Ruto, Kenya Kwanza, Kithure Kindiki, or any politician. But in politics, symbolism often speaks louder than direct accusations. His Titanic analogy immediately sparked widespread debate because many Kenyans interpreted every part of the story as referring to the current political situation inside the Kenya Kwanza administration. The Titanic is remembered as a ship that was considered unsinkable. Even after hitting the iceberg, many people aboard failed to appreciate the magnitude of the disaster until it was too late. By the time they realized the danger, the fate of the ship had already been sealed. Kuria appears to be borrowing that exact symbolism. According to his analogy, the ship has already struck the iceberg. Water has almost filled the vessel. The passengers know disaster is inevitable. Even the rats, the traditional symbol of those who flee before complete collapse, are already looking for exits. Yet despite all these warning signs, two groups continue behaving as if nothing serious is happening. The first group is the band, calmly playing music while the ship sinks. The second group is made up of wealthy families arguing over who deserves the front row. The message is simple but powerful. Leaders can sometimes become so consumed by appearances, internal competition, and political comfort that they ignore the bigger crisis threatening the entire system. This is why Kuria's post has attracted enormous attention. The timing is equally significant. For several weeks, political discussions have been dominated by speculation surrounding Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. Reports and political commentary have suggested that some responsibilities previously associated with the deputy president are increasingly being handled by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. At the same time, there has been growing speculation over whether President William Ruto could eventually choose another running mate before the next general election. Whether those claims are accurate or not is almost secondary to the political conversation they have generated. Instead of discussing the rising cost of living, unemployment, economic recovery, public debt, healthcare, or service delivery, much of the political establishment appears preoccupied with succession calculations and internal positioning. That is precisely what Kuria seems to be criticizing. Many observers rush to conclude that Moses Kuria was abandoning Kenya Kwanza or quietly preparing to join the opposition. But that interpretation may be too simplistic. Anyone who has followed Kuria's political career knows he has built a reputation as one of Kenya's most unpredictable politicians. He frequently uses provocative statements to challenge both allies and opponents. He rarely communicates in straight lines. Instead, he often uses metaphors that force people to think beyond the literal words.
Western is quiet. Coast is quiet. North Eastern is quiet. And I'm in those circles, my friend. I know what is being cooked. And let me shock you. So, kuna watu, there's some people who are doing exams, who are doing practice for a football match that will not happen. There will not be that kind of content. There's not going to be an election in 2027 for presidential.
Say that again.
Yes, there's not going to be a contest.
Looking carefully at this latest statement, nowhere does Kuria call on Kenyans to reject President Ruto. Nowhere does he announce his departure from Kenya Kwanza. Nowhere does he endorse the opposition. Instead, the post reads more like a warning from someone who believes the coalition is losing focus. His concern appears to be that Kenya Kwanza risks spending valuable political energy fighting internal battles while neglecting the issues that actually determine elections. History offers many examples of governments that were not defeated because of the opposition's strength, but because of internal complacency. When leaders become more concerned with positions than performance, when succession debates overshadow governance, when political calculations replace public service, the public eventually notices. That is the deeper meaning behind the Titanic analogy. The iceberg is not necessarily one single event. It could represent declining public confidence, economic frustrations, internal rivalries, broken campaign promises, or simply the growing perception that the government is becoming distracted from its original agenda. The band symbolizes leaders pretending everything is normal despite warning signs. The wealthy passengers fighting over seats symbolize politicians competing for future positions before solving today's problems. In other words, Kuria may not be predicting Kenya Kwanza's collapse. He may instead be warning that unless the coalition reorganizes itself quickly, it could create conditions that make electoral defeat much more likely. His message therefore appears less like a resignation letter and more like an alarm bell. He is essentially telling his political colleagues, stop fighting over tomorrow's positions. Start fixing today's problems. Because if the ship sinks, nobody will care who was supposed to sit in the front row. Whether Kenya Kwanza heeds that warning remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. Moses Kuria has once again succeeded in doing what he has always done best, using a few carefully chosen words to ignite a national political conversation. Do you think Moses Kuria was warning Kenya Kwanza to reorganize? Or was he subtly signaling that the government is headed for political collapse? Share your thoughts in the comments below.